Yeah, thanks everyone for coming along today. I hope you can hear and see me okay. I like to stand up when I'm doing these things, so I'm not trying to sort of look down on you or anything like that, but I just find it's easier to stand up when talking. So what I'm going to do, I think, is just to go through the topics and the content, and I will sort of go slow, and I'll give you space and time to sort of noodle on your own to try things out. And what we'll do is we'll take questions at the end, and I may stop in between some of the topics just to see if there are any burning questions, but we'll try and do it like that, so that we'll do the questions at the end, but I might break it up as I go. So what I'm talking about today is and I think if some people may be familiar with this topic and maybe have seen me give a workshop on this before, is this idea of timing skills. Now, timing skills, when I talk about timing skills, it's much more than simply the ability to keep time. Okay, so people may be sort of thinking, oh, timing skills, well, I can tap my foot and keep time, and that's all there is to it. But when I'm talking about timing skills, yes, I'm talking about your ability to keep time, but also it's how you can use time to improve things like your phrasing. And when we talk about timing skills, and when I think about a lot of harmonica players out there, there's two things that really strike me. One, many people who call them intermediate, they sort of label themselves as intermediate harmonica players, cannot play a tune or a 12-bar blues on their own, right, without any backing. And many people cannot improvise on their own without any backing and maintain the structure and time. So that's the first thing. And then the other thing is, a lot of harmonica playing I hear is what I call very linear. Okay, it's very square to the beat. It's very predictable. Okay, so it's like you know, da 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 da. Everything's very square on the beat. Now, when we listen to players that we really love, the reason why they sound so interesting and so cool is not just that they've got a good tone, and you know, they it's their playing, it's their phrasing, it's their sense of time. So if we think about players like Kim Wilson, Little Walter, people like that, Paul DeLay, it's their phrasing which really sets them apart. Now, when people think about improvising and looking for new licks and riff ideas, often we do this from the perspective of just thinking about our choice of notes. Okay, we look as sort of like, let's think about more notes that we can pack in, and we think in a very only through the lens of note choice and melody. What I want to get across to you in this workshop is firstly how timing skills are important, so that you can play the harmonica on your own without any backing, and that is the most common way how we play, because we're playing at home. But also it's taking advantage of the best things about the harmonica, the fact it's a band in a box, right? It's rhythmic, it can play melodies and so on. So if you can't play this way, you're missing out on one of the best bits about the harmonica. So what do I mean by that? Something as simple as being able to go no backing and just being able to, you know, improvise over a 12-bar, you know, shuffle yourself, right? So, you know, right? Just to play like that, I'm holding the groove on my own, and I'm improvising, and you can hopefully hear the structure and so on. So that's the first thing. But then it's to be able to unlock new improvisational ideas, and I believe this is the biggest overlooked area by harmonica players in terms of their timing skills. So what I want to do today is I want to just, in the interest of time, I've got 2 exercises. One will be quite short, just to sort of show the idea of what I'm talking about around the topic of how very small changes in time can completely change a feel of a phrase. And then what we're going to do is we're going to take a 2-bar phrase, a very simple phrase, and I'm going to put 5 different ideas into that phrase, which will turn it into something super cool, right? All around the theory of time and give you things to kind of work on. So I'm going to be using an A harp during this, okay, if you want to play along. Now, because we're not all playing along at the same time, it doesn't matter if you're using a C or a D or whatever, because no one's going to hear you. And the whole numbers and the notes that I talk about will be exactly the same, but I'm using an A harmonica, all right? So just the first thing I'm going to do and demonstrate when I'm talking about timing and phrasing is this idea of dwell time and how very small changes in timing can make a big difference. And this idea of trying to make your playing less linear and less predictable. All right. Now, if we take a very simple phrase, okay, like this, I'll play it and then we'll break it down. It's in cross position, and you would hear this all the time over the 1 chord. You'll all be familiar with it. Okay. So if we take something like this. Okay. It's a very, very simple phrase. Okay. Does everyone want to have a quick go at playing that? I'm assuming everyone can do that. Just take 30 seconds to sort of loop around that a few times, okay, to get it in your head. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so if anyone's on there who's not familiar with the notes, it's draw 2, draw 3, and what we can do is we can make that draw 3 a half step bend to make it a bit darker, right? Okay, then we got draw 4, blow 5, draw 5, and then we come back down, blow 5, draw 4, draw 3, half step bend, draw 2. Okay, so once more, this time with that little half step bend in it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so very, very, very familiar to everyone. Now, we're going to do it once more, but what I really want you to do here is think of it as a 2-bar phrase, okay? And we're in 4/4. So each bar has got 4 beats. And what we're doing is we're playing 1 note per beat. And what I want you to do is I want you to tap your foot and really pay a conscious effort with when your foot hits the floor, right? That is when you're firing the note. So when I do the counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, really lock your foot into that time signature. And when we go through it, play the note so you're being super accurate on where the beat is landing. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now here's the bit where I'm talking about timing skills. Okay, so we got a 2-bar phrase and we're playing it in what I call a very linear way, a very predictable way. Now watch what happens when I change the timing on 2 of those notes. Let's see what happens to the phrase. Okay, so I'm going to play it through in a linear way and then I'm going to change the timing. 1, 2, 3. Right? Can everyone hear that? How different it sounds. And all I've done is I've tweaked the timing, the dwell time on the draw 3 half step bend and the draw 2 on the way down. And it takes it from something which is very linear and predictable, okay, and very square, all of a sudden it's got a bit of shape, it's got a bit of personality. I'm not adding notes. All I'm doing is I'm changing the timing on the notes I've already got. Okay, now what am I doing there? So if we focus in on the draw 3 half step bend and that draw 2, the first thing you should notice is I'm hitting that draw 3 half step slightly earlier, and this is called a push. Okay, now if you think of your foot going down like this, okay, and you've got the downbeat and you've got the upbeat, okay, the downbeat, the upbeat. Now anywhere along that travel, you can play that note and it will be slightly earlier, okay, so it's pushed, okay. These are fractions of a second. These are really small intervals. So what I'm doing is, and this is why it's important to tap your foot. What you do is, as you go along, as you come down, when we do this together, you want to play that draw 3 half step slightly before your foot hits the floor, okay? And then the next thing you want to do is, what I'm doing is I'm holding that note for a fraction of longer. What I'm doing is, when my foot hits the floor, I keep holding the note, my foot comes up, I keep holding the note, and then as my foot comes down, I hit the draw 2, and then I keep holding the note, and as my foot comes off, I keep holding the note, and then when my foot goes down, I switch to the draw 3 half step on the way up, okay? So just to break it down again, I'm going, everything's on the beat, very square. Then I come down, I'm hitting that note slightly earlier. I'm pushing it before my foot hits the floor, but then I'm holding it slightly longer, and then I'm holding the draw 2 slightly longer. So let me just play it for you one more time, and then we'll all do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I hope you can hear that, all right? So do you want to have a go at doing that yourselves? I'll count you in, and what is a good thing to do is to play one cycle through, very linear. Tap your foot. Each note is on the beat as your foot goes on the floor. The second time you go through the loop, switch to the new feel and really lock into pushing that draw 3 half step bend a bit earlier, and hanging on to that draw 3 for a fraction of a longer, and hanging on to that draw 2, and see if you can keep the groove, okay? Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Cool. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to quickly pause there. It is just in terms of the topic, is that making sense to everyone? Can everyone hear that? Can everyone hear the difference? Does anyone have any burning questions?
All good. All good.
All good? Okay, cool. I'll give you another quick example, okay? If I take a very simple phrase like draw 2, draw 3 half step bend and blow 4, and I loop through that twice, okay? Like this. And we do again that in time. Okay, now watch what happens to that phrase if I hold the second draw 3 for a fraction of a second longer. Okay, so we go from something which is very square and boring to something which has got lots of groove. Same notes. Suddenly sounds totally cool, right? Now this, I cannot emphasize enough, is the essence of where new ideas and possibilities come from, because at the end of the day, there's only 12 notes. We're all using the same notes, okay? The difference is in people's timing skills. In other words, their phrasing, okay? And how they use time to unlock new possibilities. So this is just a small glimpse. So if you imagine carrying this idea of, if you imagine like a timeline and where notes are placed, if you listen to most people's playing, the notes are all on the beat. They're all very square and they're all held for similar amounts of time. This is kind of boring timeline. Now, if you listen to someone like Little Walter or Paul DeLay or Kim Wilson, that timeline, there's lots of variation, and this is what gives the, makes it interesting to the listener, all right? So you're playing with time, okay? And I can't emphasize that enough. Okay, so that's the first part, just to kind of introduce this idea. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a simple phrase, a 2-bar phrase again, and I'm going to go through 4 or 5 different ideas around timing skills to show you how we can transform this phrase. Okay, I love this exercise. It's a really powerful way of getting across to you what I'm talking about. So let's see what the phrase is. I'm going to play it and then I'll explain what the notes is. It's very, very simple. It's 2 bars. Okay, 4/4, 4 beats in each bar, 4 notes, 1 for each beat. So it sounds like this. And we're going to loop through that. So the first bar has got 4 notes. Those notes are draw 2, draw 2, draw 3, half step bend, draw 3, no bend. Okay, so it's going. Okay, draw 2, draw 2, draw 3, half step, draw 3, no bend. Okay, so let's all do that. Okay, I'll count to 4 and then we just play the first bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, super simple. Okay, the second bar is basically a C7 arpeggio. Sorry, well, it's a first position arpeggio. I'm saying that as if I was using a C harp. I'm using an A harp. And what that is, it sounds like this. 2, 3, 4. So what we've got is we've got blow 1, blow 2, blow 3, draw 3, half step bend. Okay, it's the first position arpeggio. Everyone should know that beginner stuff. Okay, so let's take bar 1 and bar 2 and let's put them together and then we loop through it. Okay, we're going to loop through it twice. Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that's the basic thing. And in terms of timing skills, what you're looking to do is you're looking to tap your foot and you're looking to place each note on the beat. And what you want to be able to do is you should be able to loop through that phrase as long as you want, without the time changing and without the structure breaking. So you should be able to go. Okay, Now, if you can't do that and you're trying to play overblows and you're trying to do advanced blues, you've got yourself completely back to front. Okay. If this was a workshop on a piano or the violin, this would be basic, fundamental stuff. So if you can't do what we've just been doing, and I don't mean get the notes, I mean play it smoothly, consistently, on time, you're still very much a beginner. And I don't say that as a criticism. That's just these are kind of basic control things that you should have. And in my opinion, a lot of intermediate harmonica players don't work on things like this, and therefore they don't have the as Joe Falisco says, you don't have the root system to grow a bigger tree. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So now we've got our basic phrase. Let's start making it cooler using timing skills. All right. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to play through it once. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to play around with the time interval in the first bar between the third and fourth note, right? I'm going to play around with that interval between the draw 3 half step bend and the draw 3 no bend. Okay, so have a look at this. Okay. Everyone hear that? The difference? And that just gives you so much expressive possibility thinking about the timing between those two notes. Okay. Now, again, what I'm doing is I'm not changing the notes. I'm just changing the timing of it. So instead of going every note on the beat, I'm hitting the last note of the bar earlier. I'm hitting it more on the upbeat. I'm hitting it on the one and, okay? And this takes you into being more like a horn section, okay? But there isn't a single answer to this. This is where it comes down to individual expression and individual feel. Because anywhere along that beat, downbeat, upbeat, downbeat, upbeat, is a spectrum where a note can be placed. As we saw a minute ago, I can push a note before it hits, or I can play a note late, okay, after, or I can play in that space on the upbeat, okay? So let's try this together, okay? So we're going to play the riff, the 2 bars in a linear way, okay? So we'll go, not that fast, I'm just showing you. And then we play that through once, and then on the second time, what you want to do is you want to go, okay? So the sentiment is almost thinking about as your foot hits the floor on the draw 3 half step back, it's almost like it's on a trampoline, and the draw 3 no bend is on the rebound, okay? Boo-wah, boo-wah, doo-da, okay? So let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4. Have a quick noodle with that. See if you can get that. Okay. So I hope that's coming across and making sense. Now, the next thing we want to notice here is like why it sounds cool and something else you can do. Because we're really pushing that draw three no bend. We're hitting it on the upbeat in a sense. What we're doing is we're leaving more air, more time before the blow one happens, okay? Because we played it earlier. And that gap is very important. But what we can do to emphasize that is when we hit that blow one, if you notice, I hit it, I hold it slightly longer. And again, it's this sense of the draw three, you spring up and then you land. The blow one is almost like a landing, okay? And you want to hit it very accurately on the beat. You really want to focus in on your foot. So you're hitting that blow one spot on and you're holding it for a fraction of a longer because it brings the riff together. Okay, so that's something to really focus in. So let's just do it one more time together. So what you're going to do, really focus in on where you land that blow one, and you got to do it accurately, otherwise the structure starts to break down. So here we go, and we'll loop through it twice. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. All right. So this idea of playing a note slightly earlier, but really thinking about the accuracy of the note that comes afterwards. The next thing we're going to fold in here is one of my favorite moves, which is what I call the push and hold, which is what we were doing in the last exercise with the draw three half step bend and that draw two, and pushing a note, holding it for slightly longer. So when we were going, that I call a push and hold. Right? Now what we're going to do is we're going to introduce that push and hold idea into this 4-bar riff. And I'm going to play it through, see if you can hear where I'm adding it to what we've already got. Okay? Again, it just takes the thing up another level. Everyone hear where that is? So I'm doing it at the end of the second bar on the 4 chord. All right, so we've gone from something very linear . So I'm doing it just as I come back onto the 1 chord. So the notes that you want to look at is that draw 3 half step bend here. That note I'm pushing slightly earlier. I'm holding it slightly longer. Again, my foot hits I play it slightly earlier. My foot hits the floor. I keep holding the note as my foot comes up. I keep holding the note as my foot comes down. Just as I hit the floor, I switch to the draw 2. I hold the note as my foot comes up. I hold it as it comes down. And then I'm on the draw 3. Sorry, then I'm on the second draw 2 of the start of the phrase. So I'm going. Okay. So again, this phrase now sounds so much cooler just because of this little push and hold. It's completely different to right, which is frankly boring. So let's see if we can loop through this using the push and hold. So let's play it through in a linear way, the basic vanilla groove. And then the second time we go through, let's add that early draw 3, no bend. And then as we come down round, think about where that blow 1 is. And then as we come to return back to that draw 2, we push the draw 3, half step bend, hold it, come on to the draw 2, hold it, and then we start the riff again. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, do you want to take 30 seconds just to noodle around with that, see if you get it? Hope this is making sense. Remember to tap your foot, really focus in on tapping your foot. What's good about tapping your foot is you'll be able to feel where notes are early, where they're pushed, and where you're holding on to things. Okay, cool. So in the interest of time, we'll move on. But what I encourage you to do with something like this, and this is the issue for intermediate players, okay, is that because this is melodically very simple, it's melodically very simple, intermediate players tend to go, oh yeah, I can do that, and move on. But what separates you, Paul DeLay, Kim Wilson, Little Walter, Joe Falisco, is their sense of time. And I cannot emphasize enough, practicing things like this, working on things like this, really getting into that groove and those micro variations in time is where the magic is. Okay, cannot emphasize that enough. Okay, so you can really dig into and think about that push time between that draw 3 half step and the no bend. Really feel where that blow 1 comes, and then feel how you can hang on to that draw 3 2 as you come back round to the 1. It's fantastic. And you can start to put lots of expressions in there, dirty notes, pushing it a lot, not pushing it very much. Really have fun with it. It's so important for your playing. Okay, next thing. What we're going to do now, okay, we've talked about the blow 1, the draw 3, half step bend and push. What we're going to do now is we're going to see what happens if we take something away. Now, often when we think about improvising, or we think about licks and phrases and so on, we think about adding more notes. Okay, how can we pack more notes in? How can we make notes faster? How can we make them longer and so on? What happens if we actually take a note away? I just think this is a super cool thing to sort of think about and look at. And again, we could really bring it to life using this phrase. So watch what happens when I take one of these notes away. All right. Okay. So same riff. Okay. And this thing is like, if you overuse it, it's not cool. But what happens is as a kind of, if we think about a literary mechanism, we can think of this as a musical mechanism where, because you've set up a pattern, if you suddenly vary that pattern, it really jumps out to the ear. People are not expecting it. Okay, that's what makes it sound interesting. And this is a great thing to use in riffs. If you're thinking like a horn player, right? Etc. Right? But you can only do that if you're grooving. Okay, and it's great fun. Okay, so what am I doing there? All I'm doing is I'm dropping the first two, the first draw two of the bar. Okay. Now I'm also slightly pushing the draw two that I come in on. Okay, but that's just a taste thing. All right. So what we're going to do now is we're going to play through that riff. We're going to play through it linear the first time. The second time we play through it, we're going to drop this note. Okay, we're going to drop the first two. And then what we're going to do after that is we're going to alternate between playing the groove, the things that we've done, but then including the first draw two and then dropping the first two. We're going to alternate. All right. So let's do that together. So we play it linear, then we play the groove, but we drop that first two and then we alternate between the two. Okay, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Now think about how you can use that in your solos. Think about how you can use that in your riffs. Okay. It's not all about cramming more and more notes in. Okay. It's this idea of taking stuff away. Now, the last thing I'm going to do as a bonus thing here. This again, so everything that I've gone through here is taken from my Timing Skills for Blues harmonica course, right? Which you can get on Vimeo. And it's probably a terrible title, given all the different elements which are in it. But this is a sense of what the course is about, okay? Now, the next exercise we're going to do is really to do with helping you improve your playing accuracy so you can keep time. So we talked about using timing variations. The last thing we're going to do is this is all about keeping that 2-bar cycle, okay, adding a particular move and you being able to play that move accurately so that the loop, the timing loop, is not disrupted, okay? This is why I call it timing skills. So let me play through and then I'll break it down, okay? It sounds like this. Okay, so everyone hear that? So what I'm doing there is I'm putting in a head roll, which is a move someone like William Clark used a lot. But head rolls are not random, okay? And it's like a little trill on a piano, okay? And you should be able to play these little riffs with control. In other words, you can play them slowly and faster. So you can go. So what we're looking to do is to put one of these in and not disrupt the time. So what are the notes? Very, very simple. At the start, we go, we just hit those 2 draw 2s as normal. Then what we do is we go on to the draw 3, up to the draw 4, back to the draw 3, onto the draw 2, and then onto the blow 2. So it's okay. So draw 3, draw 4, back to the 3, onto the 2, blow 2, right? If you listen to William Clark, let's say, oh, I can't remember the name of the, it's on Blowing Like Hell, Lollipop Mama, that's it, Lollipop Mama. He uses this kind of move all over that tune, okay? So what we're gonna do here, okay, is we're then gonna add another little twist here. I'm aware of time, Sam. This will just be a couple more minutes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go down onto that blow 2. And then what we're going to do is, so we have, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So what you're aiming to do is that if we're counting in 4, you want to be on that blow 2 on the 3. Okay. So if we go 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Then what we do is we go onto the draw 2, and then we hit the blow 1. And that blow 1, this is where the timing skill comes in. That blow 1 has to be on the first beat of the next bar. Otherwise, this breaks down. So it sounds like this. And when you hit that blow 1, you carry on through that first position C, first position 7th arpeggio. So it sounds like this. Now, if you can't play that accurately, looping through it so the timing doesn't change, so the structure doesn't change, and you hit that blow 1 every time in the right place, then you are getting somewhere, right? Because that takes control, okay? So that's a super cool move, and I hope you've seen how we've taken a very simple linear phrase and we've put in these different timing skills, which can help improve our playing accuracy and also gives us scope for expression. So just to sort of wrap it up, I'm going to loop through it a few times, bringing these ideas together. And what you want to do is you want to muck around with them and use them as improvisational ideas. Sometimes I add the push, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do the head roll, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I drop out the draw 2, sometimes I do, right? So it sounds like this. And so on, right? So you could start that, and I'm not adding, you know, any melodic complexity, but I'm really getting into the essence of what this groove can be using timing skills. Okay? So I hope you've enjoyed that. And I cannot emphasize enough how important this is for intermediate blues harmonica players. It's going to help you so much. So check out my course on it. And right, let's take some questions if there are any. Thank you.
Go on, Sam.
Hi, Lee. Thank you very much. That was a brilliant lesson. I'm always interested in how players visualize the instrument, and you've talked a lot about that.
Yeah.
Do you have a lot or anything to say about visualizing time in your mind's eye, or have you got any anecdotes about that?
Ooh.
I just thought it was something that really struck me as very interesting about the question of how players think about time and how they relax into it. Some people really push it to the forward. It's such a big question.
Yeah, good. That's a really good question. Yeah, so obviously, again, for anyone who's not familiar with my research project called Brainstruments, if you go to brainstruments.com, I've got an academic neuroscience paper about the mental models of musicians and why the best players play the way they do and why some people struggle, not just for harmonica, on all instruments. So this question is kind of related to that, and I'm hoping one day to turn it into a book, but I'm too busy. So the short answer to that is that my sense of time, such that it is mainly physical. So it's something that I feel. But what I do use the Brainstrument for, let's say if I'm playing around with time, because I, in quotes, see the harmonica layout in my mind's eye, and it does not look like harmonica tab, right? If I'm thinking about that space, that to me is spatial, and I'm thinking about how fast or slow I'm moving between those 2 points. Same on if I'm moving between 2 holes. I can kind of see the difference. I'm hanging on to one a bit longer. I'm definitely thinking about how I'm moving around those notes. So I do, in quotes, see it, but I also, if you notice, I'm sort of doing this, and I'm sort of, so it's quite physical, my sense of time. Now I've spoken to 5 or 6 of the best drummers in the world: Peter Erskine, Brian Blade, Antonio Sanchez. And when you look at a drum kit does not tell you anything about time, right? So I was interested to see how these people think. Now, someone like Brian Blade, he actually sees beats and different rhythms as physical forms in his mind's eye. But someone like Peter Erskine, for example, these are all the sort of top jazz drummers. He doesn't. For him, it's very much about the physicality of playing the drums. But for me, when I'm thinking about playing the harmonica, I can really see that spaces. Now, I also play a lot of guitar, and I have to say that my guitar playing is massively inferior to my harmonica playing, and it's because I do not have my Brainstrument is not as good. I just don't have the aptitude, and I find it much harder to convert ideas onto the instrument in a way that I don't on the harmonica. So I hope that answers that question.
Thank you very much. Yes.
I've got Joe has been waiting with his hand in the air. Joe French.
Hi Lee. Thanks very much for the session. Really interested. I put this on chat as well. I was interested just in that simple phrase that we went through.
Yeah.
When you came to the C chord bit, the first position bit.
Yeah.
And you seemingly instinctively chose blow 3 for the third note of that rather than draw 2. Yeah. And I just habitually, I tend to always favour draw 2 over blow 3 because I feel I can just do it a bit more accurately. But I'm just wondering if you could share your thoughts on that. Yeah.
So there's no right or wrong answer to this, but I use a lot of blow 2s. Uh-huh. Because if you think about the bottom 3 holes of the harmonica, okay, what it does is it gives you a different route through those notes, Okay. And when you move through those whole combinations, you get a kind of different perspective, and it opens up other possibilities. So the fact that I'm on a blow before I do that draw 3, for example, makes it sound slightly differently. I might hit it slightly differently. Okay. Now, if you want to go through there and play the draw 2, that's fine. It's the right note. But I think if you think of licks in that bottom end, if you never use the blow 3, you're missing out on a lot of stuff. You know, just being able to go draw 1, blow 2, blow 3, draw 3, half step, draw 2. Sounds different to going, right? It just gives you a different way. So if you're coming down the harp, you can get these different flavors. You can also start licks off that blow 2. All this kind of stuff, rather than, it just gives it a different combination. So I use blow 3 a lot, and I got that from a conversation with Rob Piazza in the 90s, and they all do it.
I think we're gonna have to wind it up there, I'm afraid, folks. I think what that's told us, Lee, is that perhaps if you come back, we'll give you longer to do a session, and then we can have more questions.
People have probably got a headache at this point, so it's probably a good lesson, because people can only absorb so much information. But I'm happy to come back and do another one. But yeah, look, if you're interested in this, please do check out my timing course. I've just lowered the price on it, so it's super important. And don't think because you tap your foot you've got it all down. I hope, if anything, I've got across to you what you can do. You know, when I say timing skills, accuracy, making your playing less linear, and this idea of unlocking new phrasing ideas, not by packing more notes in, but by working the notes you already have in a different way.
Okay, that's brilliant. Just one last thing. Have you got your URL on Vim, you know, with regards to your courses, or what's the the best way to?
Well, they're on Vimeo, so it's a platform like YouTube. So if you go onto Vimeo, vimeo.com, and search, you know, Lee Sankey, either timing skills, you'll find it. Or if you search Lee Sankey timing skills for blues harmonica in Google, hopefully it'll come up there. Or otherwise, if you can't find it, just send me a message on Facebook, and I'll send you the link.
Okay. Well, should we take 5 minutes there, and then like 3 minutes actually? Thank you very much, Lee. Really,
Okay.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Okay. See you soon.
Bye bye.
3 minutes to go and get your cups of tea, guys. Okay.